Okay, y'all, excuse my big poofy hair. I freaking washed my hair yesterday, braided it up, and as I'm driving my kids to school, I was taking out my Felicia braids, child, and I just was like, it is what it is. It is what it is. But anyways, so I'm gonna answer a question that I haven't really talked about, which is, what is like the physical aspects of being a nurse? Like, is it very physically taxing, things like that? Now, of course, I am an LPN. I work in long-term care, so the way I see it is different than maybe someone else working in a different setting, but that's the setting that I work in. So physically, what I do, speaking from my experience, is the most physical thing I've done is like day to day is pushing the med cart or pushing the treatment cart, but it's on wheels, and you can just push it, so it's not really that physically taxing. You may have to transfer patients, which can be physically taxing. Pushing patients over and kind of like holding them over to do like a treatment or to help your aide clean the patient, or if you want to clean your own patient, that can be kind of physically taxing. Pulling patients up in the bed, so basically you'll have a CNA on that side or another nurse or whomever on one side of the bed, you'll be on this side of the bed, and you both will be like 1, 2, 3, and you all grab the sheet, or they call it a pull sheet or a chuck, underneath the patient, and you just grab it and both of y'all pull the patient up. But there's ways to kind of save your back. So if you're doing treatments, of course, like put the bed up to like your level, to your hip level, or to the point where you're not straining so far going down, or if you're a shorter nurse, you're not like reaching up too high to do treatments and to do assessments on your patients. Whenever I pull a patient up in bed, I always put the head of the bed down and I put the feet of the bed up. I think that's called Trendelenburg, y'all. Don't get me going with these dang on positions. But put the feet of the bed up and the head of the bed down, so you have gravity helping you pull this patient up in the bed, because it kind of just like pulls them down. And there's plenty of times where I pull the patient up in the bed by myself, and that's what I do. I position the bed like that, and I kind of get like behind the head of the patient and pull the sheet back. That's probably not the best way to do it, because you should have help. You shouldn't be straining yourself, but sometimes you just ain't got the help, so you just gotta do what you gotta do. But definitely do your best, to work on your body mechanics so you can protect your body. Honestly, y'all, you can stretch before you go to work, like for real, legit. Like, I like to go to the gym before I go to work, just to get my body a little bit more limber. Let's see, any other physical things. You might have patients who are combative, so you might have to like kind of hold them down or do certain things so that they're not beating you up. If there's a code, you are expected to run to the code. Plenty of nurses I see do not run to the code. So yeah, the other day I was at a job, right, and it was 2 regular nurses and I was the agency nurse, of course. So I hear one of the nurses, she was like, so if we have a code, she asked this to the regular nurse, how many people do you think gonna really show up to this code if you think about our regular nurses? And I'm thinking she's like throwing shade. It was so funny. And so the other nurse was like, she was like, because the person who asked that, because I know it's going to take me a minute to get over there. I know me, I'm out of shape. It's going to take me a minute. And she was like, well, such and such got a bad leg, and such can't do this. And such. All these nurses, she was like, yeah, if you think about it, all of our nurses are just not equipped to handle a code, just getting to the code, let alone doing CPR, because CPR is very taxing. Like, CPR is a lot. That's a lot of dang on nursing doing that dang on CPR. Trust and believe it is. So running a code can be very taxing. It doesn't happen all the time in long-term care, but it does happen. So that's one thing. I would say that's the most. It's not super physical, but I do know, like at that same place that I went to, they have it where they have one nurse. Basically, so some places have it where, say you got 50 patients on the floor, they'll split the assignment where they say, okay, this patient got 25 people, this person got 25 people, and you do all the physical work for your patients, like checking their blood sugar, administering narcotics, doing the wound treatments, things like that, as well as all the paperwork, which could be, nursing notes, answering the phones, calling a doctor, getting orders, assessments, things like that, that take you being on that physical computer and doing like paperwork. So You do that for all of your patients. But at this place in particular, what they do is they have one nurse that sits at the desk and basically does all the desk work. And then you have another nurse who is basically doing all the nurse work, like literally out here doing everything, all the treatments, all the assessments, all of the everything. And that's how they split it up. So I noticed that this place is like one of the only places that does that. And like the nurse had stated before, a lot of their nurses cannot physically handle being on the floor all day. You know? So it's not, because I had like one nurse, she had like some type of leg brace on, and she was the desk nurse, and she was like, yeah, I can't really be on my legs for too long, da da da. So if you have issues like with your knees and your back and stuff like that, it could be physically taxing, because just walking can be physically taxing for some people if they have those issues. Some people, you know, it helps to lose some weight if you have any like increased weight, and that might be causing you to have knee pain, or if you have arthritis. I know my mom, she has arthritis in her knees, and her doctors always tell her to lose weight, and she's like, well, in order for me to lose weight, I have to exercise, but I can't exercise because my knee. But honestly, like, you know, you can lose weight with diet changes. Like, the diet is like 80%. It's not necessarily about exercise, it's about changing the way you eat. Not necessarily what you eat, but the way you eat sometimes is really what needs to be changed. But anyway, that's a whole other video. But yeah, so it can be physically taxing if you have issues with just basic things like that. But that's just bedside nursing. You don't have to do bedside nursing forever. There's nurses who don't even leave their house, and they're still nurses, and they still work as a nurse, and they still help their patients. They're just not helping them bedside. There's some nurses who, I knew a nurse, she was a young nurse. She had back issues, and she left the job because she was like, this is just so taxing on my body. And what she ended up doing is working like, I guess like, I was a new nurse, so I didn't know what to ask her to understand what the heck she was doing. But from my, I think she was saying like she's the type of nurse that, like, for labor and delivery or oncology, for OB, for obstetrics, basically if a person needed to call and talk to the doctor's nurse, she would be on the phone talking to them, kind of telling them like, oh, you should come in, or oh, you should try to do this, da da da. There's insurance companies who have nurses who just check up on you during your pregnancy and ask you questions and try to reduce your incidence of having any issues that will cost the insurance company have to pay for something. So there's nurses that do not have to do bedside nursing, and possibly I can do a video more going into that. I feel like that'd be helpful for some people. But bedside nursing is just like one part of nursing. Yeah, it's probably good to get some experience in it, maybe 6 months to a year, just doing it, just to see what it's like, so that you actually know what the clinical side of nursing looks like. But you do not have to be a bedside nurse forever. Starting off, I don't really know, starting off, if you can start off doing something besides bedside nursing. I'm not sure. I really would have to start looking into it more, but I wouldn't say let that deter you from going into nursing, because you don't have to always do bedside nursing. You could be a school nurse. You could go in and be a school nurse, or you could be a home health nurse. You could be an LPNS home health. You have one client, you know, so that might be a lot less physically taxing on you. It's a lot of other things that you can do. You can be a wound nurse. That might not be as physically taxing. So it really just depends, and you can do that as an LPN. There's some states where they allow LPNs to teach CNAs. There's some states where they allow LPNs to do clinicals for CNAs. Like, so CNAs that have to go to different nursing homes to get their certification, you could be an LPN and do clinical work. But of course, you definitely want to have some experience so you can teach. But there's other options. I wouldn't let it deter you. I would definitely talk to other people, but don't let people discourage you from doing it. But, you know, see if there's any type of lifestyle modifications that you can do that can make it easier for you to do the work, as well as talking to your physician, maybe more than one physician. Maybe if you have a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, talking to them, and then doing your own research about non-bedside nursing jobs and what it looks like for new grad LPNs and new grad RNs. See if that helps. I hope this video was helpful. Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, there's some days, especially if you work like 5 days in a row where my body was just like, no, like this, my body just was out of commission. Like my body was so fatigued. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes that happens because you're on your feet a lot. So if you can't handle being on your feet a lot, that's just something to consider. But you definitely have way more downtime than CNAs. It just depends, because like me, like even though I'm the nurse, like I'll still answer lights and do certain things because I'm trying to prevent my patients from being on the flow or for having any type of issues. So I'm jumping up to check on them to make sure they're good, because that's one of the biggest reasons why our patients fall, is because their light's been on for 30-40 minutes, nobody took them to the bathroom, so they say, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and do it myself, and I don't want to have to do all that work, and I want to prevent injuries and things like that. So all right, I'm done rambling. I love you all. I'm about to go to the gym, baby. Body, yaddy, yaddy goes. I love you all. Bye.